Well, our correspondent Jon Brain was at that press conference in Geneva. He joins us now. Jon, Syria De Mistura gave quite a lot of detail about how these talks will proceed. Take us through that.
Well, officially, Natasha, the talks have begun in the sense that he's open for business, as he says. Any delegates who arrive and want to speak to him from now on can do so. But the substantive talks he mentioned won't start until Monday. These are the so-called proximity talks. So the various groups won't meet face-to-face. Mr. De Mistura will meet with them individually, and then he'll take their concerns and demands to the other groups. Now, he set a deadline of the 24th of March for these talks to be completed in this phase at least. He doesn't want it to be dragging on, and as we've heard, he wants these to be substantive talks about the future of Syria, not talks about talks.
And Jon, Mr. De Mistura also noted that the cessation of hostilities has largely held over the last 2 weeks. With that backdrop, is there likely to be a greater sense of optimism there about this round of talks as opposed to others which have previously failed?
Yes, very much so. The last talks were against the background of continuing violence, continuing airstrikes. This time there is this so-called cessation of hostilities. Now, it has been breached, but it's reduced violence in Syria by around 90%. So it's against that backdrop which these talks will be held, and that will give a great deal of encouragement to delegates that they can make that temporary peace a much more lasting one.
Jon, let's talk about the situation on the ground in Syria right now. The UN has been tasked with helping 18 besieged areas. I believe they have reached around 10 of those. Where is progress at with that?
Well, there has been considerable progress. We're told that more than 230,000 people have now been reached, people who desperately needed aid and other supplies, such as medical supplies. But there are still areas they can't get to. This is what Jan Egeland, UN advisor, had to say about the situation.
The bad news is that we still have not reached 6 important besieged areas, including Daraya and Douma. That is the task that was given to members of the task force, homework as we call it in the task force. We need to have permits, we need to have security guarantees to be able to go also to those places covering all of the 18 besieged areas.
Well, that was Jan Egeland, the UN advisor to Mr. Mistura. And here in Geneva, those talks, as I say, now at a very tentative beginning, a huge challenge ahead for the delegates as they arrive here. Back to you.
Challenge indeed. Jon Brain in Geneva, thank you.